G'day guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Gamestick 4K Lite. This is a fairly small device with a HDMI connector on one side that plugs directly into your TV or monitor. I paid just under $17 Australian delivered, including GST from AliExpress, but they do go for around $35 Australian on eBay. Let's see what we get in the box. We get a small HDMI extension cable. This is handy if the ports on your TV are too close together. We get our two PlayStation 2 style gamepads. This is one of them. It is very light and it does feel very cheap. There's a power switch on the bottom. These aren't rechargeable. Instead, they do take two AAA batteries. We have our second controller. It's identical to the first. We have a micro USB power cable for powering the device. And we have the device itself. It is fairly small, very, very lightweight. It does have the wireless gamepad receiver already connected out of the box. And it should have the SD card in it, which it does. I picked up the 64 gig version since it was the exact same price as the 32 gig. You also get a very small manual. Taking a look at the device itself, it is very plain. It does say 4K on the front, which is interesting. We have the HDMI plug under the cap. There it is there. On one side, just a little air vent. On the back, you have your micro USB for power and a full-size USB-A port where the wireless controller receiver does connect to. On the other side, you have a single micro SD slot. This does boot from the micro SD. There is no internal flash, so make sure you don't lose that card or get it corrupted. I would recommend backing it up as soon as possible, since these are extremely low quality cards and they will fail, making this pretty much a brick. On the back, there is another little air vent. This is passively cooled, there is no fan inside. Let's plug it into our TV and see if it's any good. And here it is here. It didn't take too long to boot at all, maybe 10 seconds, which is pretty good. We'll turn our controller on and see how long it takes to pair. There we go. It looks like it has done. We got the green light, and it does work. It seems it automatically pairs the first controller it detects as player 1, and if we turn the second controller on, it should also automatically pair and be allocated to player 2. So that is pretty handy. You can use any controller you like, and as long as you turn it on first, it will work as player 1. The first thing you're going to want to do when you turn this on is press select to bring up the very simple settings menu. Go down to keytone setting and go to mute. By default, it is set to sound 1, and I'll show you what it sounds like every time you press a button on the main menu. You can see that does get pretty annoying pretty quickly. 2's not much better. 3 is also pretty bad. 4 is probably the least annoying out of all of them. Just a popping sound. And 5 isn't too bad either. But ideally, you would just go to mute. Press B to go back, and press B to go back again. From this menu, you can also change the language. You can see there are a fair few available, and you can also reset to factory settings. System information just shows us the firmware version and the type. Unfortunately, there is no gamepad mapping, so whatever it is out the box is what you're left with. Let's take a look at all the systems it can emulate. Pressing L1 and R1 does change between the menus at the top, and you just use the D-pad to select the system. So we've got MAME, NES, Game Boy, Gameboy Advance, Gameboy Colour, Megadrive, or Genesis, depending on where you live, SNES, PlayStation 1. I believe this might just be the Atari 2600, but we'll have a look at that a bit later. On the second page, we have Neo Geo, the Capcom Play System 1, 2, and 3, PGM, not too sure what that is. Looks like more arcade games. MISCE, which although it is a picture of a GameCube, it absolutely is not GameCube. I'm not too sure what system this is. It sort of just looks like arcade. We've got Galax, again, not too sure what system this is. It looks like more old arcade games. GX, and SYS. I believe that's a Vectrix, but I don't think these are Vectrix games. We'll start off with some NES emulation. There are 3,918 games, at least on my 64 gig card. It does seem to have all the classics and some ROM hacks, Mario 14. I think we'll try Guardian Legend. So it does load almost instantly, which is great. We'll go new game. Seems fine so far. The D-pad works as you would expect, and the left joystick is also mapped to the D-pad, so you can use either one you want. You can see at the bottom when there's lots of stuff on the screen, the status bar is flickering. So NES emulation is pretty poor on this thing. It's far from perfect. There are 4 buttons on the controller. You've got A and B, and then you've also got Turbo A and Turbo B. So I'm just holding down regular A. If I hold down Turbo A, you can see it does shoot almost instantly. Pressing start and select together brings up the little menu where you can save state, load state, change state, restart, or quit. Go down to quit. And when we press A, you'll notice it does go back to the menu almost immediately. It's very quick. Next, we'll take a look at Game Boy. You can see there is only 202 Game Boy games. That is hugely disappointing, especially considering how small Game Boy games are. They could have put a few more on there. Strangely enough, there are no Pokemon Game Boy games on here, but if we go down slightly, you'll see it does have the Diablo prototype. This isn't a full game, it is just a very early prototype. This would have been cool though. Shame it got cancelled. We'll try Mega Man 1, or Rockman 1 as it's called here. It does seem to work fine, but the A and B buttons are mapped slightly different to what I was hoping for. You see it says A and B, it is A and B. I'm used to X being B, but on this one, X is Turbo A. So a little bit annoying, and you can't change it, but that's just a personal preference. From what few Game Boy games there are, they do seem to run fine. Next, we'll try Game Boy Color. There's only 152 Game Boy Color games. That's even worse than the Game Boy selection. Again, there's no Pokemon on here. We'll do Mega Man Extreme, or Rockman as it's just called. And no surprises, Game Boy Color does work fine. No issues here. Next up, Game Boy Advanced. We do have 2,860 Game Boy Advance games, so that is more like it. Again, none of the mainstream Pokemon games are here. There is a Chinese version of Leaf Green, but it's pretty much unplayable unless you know Chinese. And there are 9 more low-quality Pokemon ROM hacks, but nothing you would really want to play. We'll try Yoshi's Island. So it is running slightly slower, but I would say this is definitely playable. If you can hear the sound in the background, it's, yeah, not perfect. You can just see the speed of Yoshi's movement. It's pretty slow. We'll try the Game Boy Advance Doom port, and you can see it is extremely choppy. It does run better than this on real Game Boy Advanced, so it's not the game. It just doesn't quite run full speed. Again, it is playable, but not really perfect. Next, we'll go Super Nintendo. It does have Super Mario World 1, but there is no Yoshi's Island, which is disappointing. Since Yoshi's Island is a much more demanding game, I was hoping to try it, but it's not included. We do have Mega Man X 1 and 2, and we also have the Donkey Kong Country Trilogy, which is pretty good. It's worth noting that only NTSC games run correctly, PAL games run way too fast, and the recommended DKC2 game, which is at the top of the list, is actually PAL, and it does run too fast. I'll just show you what that looks like. You might be able to hear it, it is running pretty fast. So I haven't sped this up, this is how fast it plays. Great for speed runs, but pretty bad for casual play. They thankfully do include NTSC copies of these games, so not all is lost. I forgot to mention, there are 4,785 included SNES games. That is pretty much the entire set, I think. I was wrong, it actually does have Yoshi's Island. We'll try that one. It didn't come up when I searched for it earlier off camera. That's why I thought it didn't exist, but it looks like the built-in search is a little bit broken. So at the very start of the level, it was all glitched out, but it does seem to be fine now. It runs full speed. It's actually running a little bit too fast because I accidentally chose the PAL ROM. We'll try finish the tutorial and we'll see if the rest of the game is working or if it's corrupt. So it looks fine so far. And here's the loading screen. It is all corrupt here, but hopefully it does get better. There we go. So I would actually say Yoshi's Island on SNES is playable. But just don't use the PAL version like I have here. I also noticed with Mega Man X2, some of the background layers were a little bit scrambled. It was still playable, it was just the text boxes during the cutscenes, and some of the backgrounds were a bit messed up. So Super Nintendo is also a bit hit and miss, at least graphically. We'll do Megadrive or Genesis next. Unfortunately, there is no Sonic or Mortal Kombat, so that is pretty annoying. We do have only 349 games, so not many at all. These aren't that big, so I'm not too sure why they didn't bother including the entire set. It does have Action 52-in-1. That is a strange choice. We'll try Ghouls and Ghosts. I'm not very good at this game, but there's not many decent games to choose from. You can see it is definitely Mega Drive or Genesis, not Master System. And it does work fine. So for what's included on Mega Drive and Genesis, it does work, but there's not many classics. Next up, PlayStation 1. Now there's only 50 games included, which is not many. It doesn't have Gran Turismo 2, which is one of my favorites, but it does have Crash Bandicoot 1. Ignore the thumbnail, it definitely isn't the trilogy, it is just one. You've got Tekken 3, Ridge Racer, Mortal Kombat 4. So I do have some classics on here, Crash Team Racing, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. You do have Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3, so that's good. It says Final Fantasy 2, but I'm not too sure which version it really is. I'm not too into Final Fantasy games. We've got Biohazard, which is Resident Evil, I believe. Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, It's another classic. Dino Crisis 2, Silent Hills included, Twisted Metal 3, and that's pretty much it for the games that I know anyway. We'll try Crash Bandicoot, nice easy one. It did take around 10 seconds for it to load the game, I'm guessing because of the file size, whereas the lower end systems did load pretty much instantly. This seems fine, not too laggy. I think PlayStation 1 actually runs the best out of all of the systems it can emulate, so that's surprising. Yeah, it's perfectly playable. We'll take a quick look at Atari. It does only have 17 games, so not many. Not many good games on here. I guess you got Porky, Pac-Man, Galaga, Dig Dug, Kari Warriors. Yeah, not much on here at all. We'll try Pac-Man. That loads instantly as well. And this does seem it's the 2600 version. And yeah, it's pretty much what you'd expect. It's a strange system to include, especially since there's only 17 games. The games themselves are really, really small, so they probably could have fit the entire library, including all modern ones and homebrew and stuff. So it's weird they didn't bother. There is a history menu, which shows you all of the previously played games, so that's always handy. Since some of the bigger catalogs, like Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance, it does take quite a while to scroll through them, and that would be pretty annoying to do each time, so at least you can just go to history. There's also a collection or favorites menu, but realistically, you just use history. The search function is a little bit broken. As mentioned, I did try and search for Yoshi, and if we look here, there were only 2 pages of results, and there was no Yoshi's Island, which is why I thought it didn't exist. It does show the Game Boy Advance version, but not the Super Nintendo version. So the search function isn't perfect. If we go to clear, we'll do Pokemon, and you can see there are 2 pages of identical games. So really there's only the 10, and then they're repeated again twice, which is a bit weird, bit of a waste of space. Leaf Green's the only one that sounds good, but again, it is in Chinese, pretty much unplayable unless you do speak Chinese. Silver Edition is actually a Game Boy Advance ROM hack, and it's not silver, it is actually shiny gold. So that's a weird one as well. We'll open it up just to show you. So you can see it's the Game Boy Advanced ROM and shiny gold version. You can hear it is a little bit laggy, but Game Boy Advance is far from perfect on this anyway. There is a downloads tab. These were already included when I brought it. I didn't add these. And unfortunately, adding games is not straightforward, and apparently does require copying your games to a Linux partition, which is not too hard in itself, but then you have to edit a SQL database. We will try this in a future video though. I think since the gamepad is just wireless over USB, we'll try the gamepad receiver in our Windows 10 computer and see if we can actually use these cheap controllers on that. So we're over on our Windows 10 Chromebook now, and I'll just connect the USB receiver into it, and we'll see what shows up in Device Manager. Ignore the unknown device, that is just something inside the Chromebook. You can hear it enumerate, and it did show up as 2 controllers, which is interesting. We'll open up the built-in gamepad tester in Windows. We'll see what happens. Just typing in gamepad, start menu, go down to set up game controllers. So 2 did show up. I'm guessing since you can pair 2 controllers to it, we'll go to properties, and here's the little built-in tester. So I've turned it off, we'll turn it back on, and it should pair pretty quickly. There we go, it's paired, and we'll see if it works. So the D-pad is the bottom right, the left joystick is there, the right joystick is the little bars. Pressing them in works. You can see the buttons light up. A, B, X and Y, L1, R1, L2, R2, start and select. So all the buttons are there. See if I can light them all up. I don't have enough fingers, but it is working. So you could use these on a computer as well, or even something like the R36S. That could be handy for 2-player games actually. Overall, it's far from perfect. The included SD card is likely to fail at any minute, so it's important to back it up as soon as you get it, which does take up a fair bit of space on your PC, especially if it's the 64 gig version. Since it also boots from the SD card, when it does fail, you'll no longer be able to use your Gamestick unless you do have a backup. There are full SD card backups on archive.org, but since there's a ton of variants of these Gamesticks out there, all with the same name and case, but slightly different internals, it will be hard finding the correct image that works on yours. If you were trying to find it, the magic keywords to search for on archive.org are Gamestick 4K Lite. There is also custom firmware available for these, which from what I've read online, greatly improves the performance for all consoles. So we'll also try that in a future video. As mentioned, the emulation is spotty, with graphical glitches in NES and SNES games. Game Boy Advance ranges from unplayable to just okay, depending on the game. PlayStation 1 seemed to run the best, which is surprising. There were hardly any Game Boy, Gameboy Colour and Gameboy Advance games included, which was disappointing, and it was lacking a lot of the classics like Sonic and Pokemon. You are also limited to NTSC games since PAL games run too fast, which is annoying since they included a mixture of both, with some failing to mention which region it's for, so you end up guessing and hoping for the best. Adding and removing games is also actually really annoying and not user-friendly, so you're pretty much stuck with what it comes with, which as mentioned, isn't a great selection. The included gamepads are passable. If you change the buttons too quickly though, it does drop the input. For example, if you're holding down X and then hold A and release X, A actually doesn't register until you release it and repress it. This is an issue in shooting games like Guardian Legend. The same thing unfortunately happens with the D-pad. If you're pressing up and left and then change it to up and right, it actually doesn't register right until you release and repress. Again, this does get very annoying in games where you have to change direction fairly quickly, like in Guardian Legend. For under $17 Australian delivered, out of the box it's not the worst thing to exist, and if you're happy with the limited stock game selection and the low quality gamepads, then it's definitely usable. If we can get custom firmware on this thing, or even just change up the games list, I think this has potential to be a great TV gaming stick for the price. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.